This is not just going to be a discussion about the RacerStar 2403, it's more so going to be a discussion about cheap motors in general. There's a lot of people that are starting to do this hobby, trying to enter the sport, trying to race, doing all this stuff. And they're all after the cheapest, lowest price parts imaginable. And anybody that's been doing it for a while will know and tell them that it's not a good idea to get the cheapest stuff because it's just going to end up costing you more money when you have to replace it. So buying a little bit better quality is usually cheaper than buying the cheapest stuff. I asked Banggood to send me this motor, thank you very much Banggood, because I wanted to try one of these super cheap motors. And the RacerStar 2306 is their kind of newer line motor. So they were out of stock with that one, so I asked for a motor that was similar build quality. So this motor is, I don't know if it's newer or older, but it has very, very similar construction quality to the 2306. I've compared very closely with the pictures. The magnets look the same, the windings look the same, everything about the construction of the motor looks the same. The shaft on the 2306 is it's not titanium, it's a steel shaft. It's a hollow steel shaft that has a wider bearing on it. So in that respect, it's better. It's also $1 more. That motor is a $9 motor. It's like $8.70. And this motor is like $7. I'm not even going to show you flight footage of this motor because it's pointless. It is so slow and just not good that it's not even worth showing you. It's a multi-rotor motor. It does work, and these cheap motors do work. But I'm going to show you why it's not a great selection, just what to look for, and it's really a criteria that people that have been doing this for a while have learned to look for in a motor. So when you look at a motor, usually you first look at the aluminum, you see what it's made of. This is made, I don't think it's even made of 6065 aluminum. The aluminum comes in different grades. They're quote-unquote aircraft grade aluminum, but 7075 is the highest grade aluminum that we have in these motors that we can buy for relatively low cost. And 6065 is a medium range. There's something below that, I forgot what it is, and there's the 7075, which is above that. This motor is definitely not the highest grade aluminum. So right off the bat, you're going to bend the shaft if you crash this, and like the aluminum will bend. And not to mention, the shaft is probably not hardened steel, the shaft in the middle that holds the bell through the stator, so that will most likely bend as well on a hard crash. Other than that, let's take a close look at the motor. So what I'm trying to show here is, there you go, you can see the air gap between the magnets and the stator. You can see a little gap that goes straight through the motor. That's a pretty wide air. The fact that you can see it so clearly on camera makes that a pretty wide air gap. Now when you compare it to a very high quality motor, the air gap is minuscule. It's like I can't even get the camera there. Just barely you can see it. It's a pretty significant difference. Also, when you look at the magnets on this motor, very high quality motor, they're curved magnets and they're very strong magnets. So they're quote unquote N52, which honestly I don't think that number really means anything. They're strong magnets. This motor does not have curved magnets or strong magnets, so it just is weak in general. And what this does is it really just increases performance, but it also increases the efficiency of the motor. So even though these motors are very slow, they're 2300 kV and this is a 2500 kV motor, even though they're very slow, they're not necessarily super efficient because of the construction of the motor. The magnets are weak, the air gap is huge, and I don't know about the windings. I'm not sure how much the windings impact the performance, but I do know that the thicker, high temperature windings do hold up to high heats better, which is what you see on this motor. If you take a look at the windings and compare them, I mean, just take a look how much bigger and thicker the windings are on the good quality motor, whereas this motor's got these tiny little windings. They're all messy. I don't think the mess of the winding really makes a difference, but they're all messy. These are things that people have learned to look for in a motor, how they can judge if a motor is high quality or low quality. Another thing that I'm not going to take a motor apart and show you is the stator laminations. So the lamination of this, the stator. Okay, so the stator is the inner part of the motor. It's what these windings are wrapped around. And this stator is made of really thin sheets of steel, and they're all stuck together. And the thinner the sheets, the better it is for a number of reasons, which I'm not going to explain right now. I've explained in the previous videos. But for a number of reasons, the thinner sheets, commonly known as laminations, are better. And I don't know what the sheets are in this motor. It's not even worth my time to take apart and take a look at them, but I can only assume that they're not the thinnest laminations because it's a very, very cheap motor. Those are really the main points that you want to look for when you're buying a motor. This motor, I chose this motor because it was kind of interesting to me because it was so lightweight. This is a 22 gram motor with the wires cut, which is an impressive weight. It's the same weight as the old generation 2204 motors, but it's a 2403. Unfortunately, the old generation 2204 motors perform significantly better than this motor, so it's not even a good replacement for those. And here's the thing, for $1 more than the 2306 from RacerStar, which is a good performing motor. When you look at bench tests, that motor performs surprisingly well. It's like 1,300 grams or something. It's crazy. But it doesn't have like the bite and the punch of a really good motor. So for $1 more, and also it's made of like some weird aluminum. For $1 more, you can get the RCX 2205 2600 kV motor. And that motor is a good motor. It's made of very good quality aluminum. It has very good construction, a hardened steel shaft, replaceable bells, and we know that it performs very well. People have been using them. People exclusively use that motor, and it's just $1 more. For another $1 more, you can get the 2206 version of that motor, which again is just a little bit more powerful, but it has good construction. RCX is making good construction motors, and I don't think anybody's really going to argue that. For $2 more than that, for $14, you can get the Hyperlite 2205 2522 kV motor, which is, in my opinion, the very best value motor in existence right now. Like, it has very good performance, it has very good efficiency, it is very lightweight. I think it's 23 grams, 24 grams with the new naked bottom, 23 point something grams. It's very powerful, and it's very cheap, and you have the option of replacing the bell, the top half of the motor. If you damage it, it's a $7 bell replacement, which RCX also has, which the RacerStars do not have. I cannot find the bells independently. So now, when you look at the initial purchase of this motor, yeah, it might be cheap, but in the long run, if you're damaging things and you're a new pilot, it's going to end up being more expensive to replace a $9 motor every single time, and a motor that gets damaged more easily than an RCX motor where you can just buy a new bell, or a Hyperlite motor where you can just buy a new bell. Plus, they have much better performance, and they're much stronger motors. The Hyperlite motor, for one, is made of 7075 aluminum, and it actually is very, very strong. All the Hyperlite motors are made of that grade aluminum. The RCX motors also claim to be made from that same aluminum, which I think they actually are. They are pretty strong. I mean, I have a bunch of the bells. I used to use them a lot, but yeah, it's a good motor. Basically, my message is that to new pilots, I don't think it's worth trying to find a very cheap motor. It's not worth your time, it's not worth the effort, and I don't recommend it in any way at all. Don't forget to floss.